Well, speaking of Ethel Merman.
Oh, good.
And all this big Broadway stars back in the day, something I was talking to Drew about, and this reminded me. It was an interesting concept because back in the day, they have these stars, and then they'd go out, and then all these professional dancers would be doing spins and they'd always remove a garment, like they'd be going out there in a bathrobe or something. Then two guys would come pull it off, and at some point they'd slide a chair in, they'd spin them around. At some point they'd like roll in a table and they'd grab her both by hand and like set her up there. But the star wasn't really doing any real dancing. They were just kind of moving, and everyone was doing the incredible work like around them. And it was understood that that's the star. They just sort of preen and mince and sashay, and then everyone else is doing all the real heavy lifting around them. And I thought, it kind of changed because, like, then there was Britney Spears and Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. Like, they were out there. They were doing the dancing.
Beyonce,
they were as good as the backup dancers were. But it would be weird if they were just kind of standing there,
being shuffled around,
leaning from side to side, and everyone else. And I was saying, and it also, I was saying to Drew, it kind of highlighted that they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I said, it would be like if you went out on stage, because they'd always highlight it. At a certain point, after everyone was sweating their ass off around you, spotlight would hit you, and you do some weird little soft shoe thing. Everyone would clap, but you're barely lifting your feet off the ground, and you do a slow turnaround and stop, and it's like, oh my God, she's moving, but not doing what everyone else was doing. And I said to Drew, I said, it'd be like if you were standing out on stage and everyone was juggling chainsaws and bowling pins, and then at some point they stopped and handed you 2 tennis balls. And you just did a small, tight circle, and the audience went nuts. But all it does is highlight that you're not nearly as good at juggling as
Stark contrast.
these
Very true.
guys are. But that's how they did it, because that was the star.
That's right.
In a way, though, that should be added to your list of things to do before you die. I like that, because that says you've really made it. You don't have to do anything because everybody understands who the superstar out there is.
Yeah, the girls with the feathers and the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe performing from a stool. You know what I mean? Where you don't even have to stand up anymore, but you still capture the audience's
I like when
imagination.
the comedian's allowed to just go out there with their notes. You know, like
notes.
refer to your notes all the time and everything.
That's I do that.
Adam does that a lot.
Yeah,
Pretty much kind of my signature
maybe
move.
but your notes would sell for.
Oh, on eBay. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Game used notes.
I have a suggestion for a stool song for you.
Please.
Winner Takes It All, ABBA.
Oh, I've been listening to the shit out of that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to talk about the things we've gone through. Though I played all my cards.
Keep going.
Oh, shit. Now I can't even think about it.
Mask
Thinking
up.
I'd
The winner takes it all. The loser
standing small.
Standing small. Yeah, they change it up.
At the
some
end,
point.
I think, yeah. So is that something you'd consider? Good stool song.
I have no real control over the music.
Come on! It's right there.
I don't have a lot of control over my phone when I travel, and I've listened to a lot of ABBA on airplanes.
I'm down. I'll be in the front row. Adam Carolla does ABBA. I would buy every ticket.
Yeah,
it's all ABBA and
very
AHA.
good. Yeah.
All right, so let's change gears a little bit. The family of the 17 victims killed at the Parkland shooting and those wounded in 2018, the Parkland, Florida, have reached a settlement with the Broward County School District. That settlement is $25 million. 52 families had sued the district for negligence in the massacre at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High.
Is that the one where the guard sort of was out front waiting for backup?
It's sad to say that I'm not sure which shooting this is.
I think that was the one where
I'm
he was kind of meandering around up front.
He was kind of like, I'm waiting for backup.
Right.
I'm not going in.
Right.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, this included families of 14 students, 3 faculty members who were gunned down. Gunmen expected to plead guilty this week to 17 counts of first-degree murder.
This week?
Yeah. This is from 2018.
Wow.
And 17 counts of attempted murder. And, $25 million payout distributed. throughout
That's
everybody.
the kind of thing about like the school guards, the mall guards, the whatever guards. You know, they go, we got to have these cops in schools. We got to have these cops at the mall and blah, blah, blah. But these aren't, Green Beret, elite fighting force. That's not the kind of shit Kalen's dad starred in. These are more guys who didn't make the police squad and retired, maybe packed on a little weight.
Yeah. The resource
Who
officer.
says they're running toward the shit when the shit goes down? And by the way, they have this. They always have the out. The out is first thing you got to call.
Right.
Like, you got to call for backup, and then someone's got to tell the guys where. By the time all that happens, it's all done.
Yeah.
You're saying
right?
they didn't spill the same blood in the same mud?
That's right.
Okay.
You know what I would do when I was interviewing those guys
Kalen, you come to me first.
with that knife? If I was interviewing cops, is that, you can look it up, but is that the one where the cop got, I'm looking at Chris, sorry, where the cop got in trouble because of like footage of him kind of hanging out and not really getting into the shit. Either way, if I was interviewing these guys, I would stage a massacre in
During
the
the
building
interview.
I was in
A
during
do-over?
the interview.
Yes.
A mulligan?
They'd be waxing on about their decorations. My dad was a cop, and I did 7 tours in NAM, and all of a sudden, I just have a guy down the hall just popping caps, If that guy slides under the desk or dives out the window, not going to make it.
Jumps
Yeah.
into action. I got this.
Right.
You got the job.
Yeah, got the job.
Pull that lav off and run.
Or better, grabs like a letter opener,
Oh, sure.
and bursts through the door screaming, "You want some?" That guy's hired on the spot.
No, that's a very good point.
We got to do that.
Yeah. Is that on your list now?
Well, it should be universally implemented, is
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay. Bill Gates, very much canceled. Very much
canceled?
hated. Bill Gates may have gotten a little too cozy with some young women at Microsoft. The board of directors has launched a full investigation, convinced Gates to step down as the chairman before they reach a conclusion. A couple of instances. The Wall Street Journal reports Microsoft's top lawyer and human resources officer told Bill Gates that his flirtatious emails with staff are inappropriate. While still married, Gates propositioned women. He did not deny the emails, but pledged to stop flirting with the staff. And the New York Times published a story about how 2 women working at Microsoft received a go out for dinner with me message from Gates. One of them ghosted Bill, and he said, if this makes you uncomfortable, pretend it never happened.
All right. Did his marriage, didn't he have some sort of, loopholes?
The summer side chick, remember?
Yeah, I mean, was there an understanding that this is something that he
It's like
could
his
do?
old lover or something that he got to
Like
go
meet
away
once
for a month
week,
with.
yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, also, I don't know. Everyone hates this, but, this is something that's been going on for several thousand years. The guy in the corner office, young ingenue comes in there. She's working as a temp. He's got the shrew of the wife. They haven't had sex in 3 years. She's showing him some attention. It seems
Truly
like it's been
chilling.
done. It's chilling.
Somehow, yes, of course you're right. I'm sorry if it's politically incorrect. Yes. A super duper rich guy with great power is a coxman.
First I've heard.
It's part of it is, and I really do think it's because of it becomes more salacious when it comes out after the fact in emails, which you weren't supposed to see. It's the same thing as this John Gruden thing that I'm sure you guys talked about last week. With John Gruden was homophobic and
Racist.
and racist and otherwise. Like, yeah, do you think the old white guy football man was a progressive thought leader? I mean, what that it's such a stunner. I can't believe it was an untenable thing. You cannot leave him in that position. Given that he's in charge of an entire franchise of people. But it's the reaction that's I can't.
Well,
you can't believe it. You're floored by this news. What?
It's an interesting. By the way, you can leave him in charge because he was in charge before they found the email. So what the fuck's the difference? But
because
anyway,
you can't. Leave
I
him
get
in.
it.
You can't be on the team. You can't be a black man on the team. You can't be Carl Nassib, a gay man, and be like, oh, well, whatever you say, coach. After all that,
if someone called another guy an ID or a wop in an email from 10 years ago, I wouldn't give a fuck.
What's an ID?
It's right.
Italian.
Oh, I never heard that.
Come on, baby.
Never heard that before.
I've never heard that either.
You don't know Heidi?
No.
Oh, sorry. Keep going with your slurs that are equal to everything else.
No one gives a shit. But here's my point. Here's the weird perfect storm we're in. No guy thinks whatever Bill Gates did is anything close to crossing a line or wrong or would care. No one. Most guys go, well, of course, is what guys do. That's how it works. Whatever. The problem is the women are outraged. And then the guys who are trying to get laid at some point have to feign the outrage with the women. By the way, it's the same thing with Gruden. We all have to feign it because then we can be in the happy tent with everyone's. Oh, it's outrageous, outrageous. These are all, every guy I know said much worse than whatever Gruden put in those emails, but we all have to pretend. So now it's essentially... It's like there wasn't much, Bill Gates, not much of a crime, but it's essentially like somebody got caught jaywalking, and then all the women went, oh my God, this is outrageous. And then the guys went, I don't think it's outrageous, but I'm going to say it's outrageous because I don't want to be shunned. So I will now pretend jaywalking is a big deal, which is what that's where we're at. Like, this is outrageous. Gruden did nothing that everybody I know wouldn't have fucking done at some point or other. But if we pretend it's outrageous, then it suggests we would have never done it. And if we pretend that Bill Gates was outrageous, then it also suggests we would never do that either.
Sure.
So that's where it comes from.
I buy that.
So if you're the recipient of this sort of cancellation, you have half the country who thinks it's something. And then you have the other half of the country who doesn't think it's anything, but who has joined the half who thinks it's something by making these decrees.
Right.
Because they have to be on the popular side.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because just hearing the story, I'm like, But then I think back to when I was a young temp in New York and this older, whatever, but not kind of a Quasimodo-esque VP of one of the places I temped asked me to lunch, and kind of cornered me in the elevator, and I was so uncomfortable. I called in sick the next 3 days because I didn't know what to do.
If he looked like John Hamm?
Different story.
Oh, God.
This is the inherent problem. Because now it's weird because it's way out of bounds when the guy with the hump in his back is asking. But if John Hamm rolled in, then that may be a date. And
Well,
now,
hard to say.
But how do we
But
work this
that
out?
didn't happen. But this one did. And I was young and I didn't really know how to you don't just say no thank you and walk back in and hold your head up high. So I just called out sick for the rest of the week. So, it's like he didn't have to,
All right.
meat.
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying we act like this is a revelation.
I don't think he should have been fired for asking someone to lunch. I'm just saying that, as a young girl, I was like, I sure need that $9 an hour, but I'm too uncomfortable. So that's what I'm saying.
But
I can see it
also,
from both angles.
the best day of your life is if Bill Gates asked you to lunch and you go, I don't think that'd be appropriate, and then he fires you. Because then you would have
Cha-ching.
you fucking blow a call in the Garagos, and now you're sitting on $30 million bucks.
Yeah, true.
Go ahead. Please.
Okay.
I just think you're exactly right, Ace.
God damn it.
The nuance, the devil's in the details. If it's John Hamm, the idea that is perpetuated in corporate harassment meetings and otherwise is it's never appropriate, and you must consult, HR if you choose to date a colleague and all of that sort of thing, as though that's not where everybody finds each other.
Right.
It's as though the world is not some movie where you're checking out produce as they do in movies. Like, I don't know anything about cantaloupe. Hi, my name's Mel. That doesn't happen in the real world to people. You meet people at work, and somehow it's allowable. And
I married my ex-coworker. That's how we met.
Of course.
That's where you spend all your time. That's funny.
Yeah, so I used to get into this with Drew all the time, way back. Drew would go like, it's just not appropriate to, date people at work. And then I'd go, but it's totally appropriate to date people at a college you go to, right? And it's like, oh, yeah. And I go, well, that's kind of where you are. You know, that's the
Yeah.
pond
You spend all your time.
you're
Your
fishing
workplace.
out of that pond. That's what it is. Now you're an adult. You're not hanging around a college campus anymore. You're at a workplace. And there are people there.
Be a character in a sitcom where apparently you get another turn at another new potential partner every week. The notion that that's what exists in the world makes me loco. Really, where else is anybody meeting anybody at this point? I guess online is where they meet.
I'll do the flip side and say this: not uncommon for an executive to ask another executive out to dinner to discuss something. Now, if it was, I don't know what the content of the email was. It was like, hey, let's go out and have some fun on a date. Maybe that crosses the line. But if it's like, hey, let's go out to dinner, that happens. I'm here to tell you that happens all the time.
It's also everything is unintended consequences. And I, as the boss, have had attractive females who have worked for me.
They say had. Don't say had.
And
Fuck
had- I don't look at you as
who are available.
I look
She's
at you,
spoken
I'm
for.
more of a flunky.
He respects
God
the
damn
ring
it.
on the finger. That's it.
There's the guys I may have taken out to a lunch and asked them what they thought about their future in this industry or whatever. I wouldn't do it with the girl.
Yeah.
It's just why?
Too much like
Optics.
Room for interpretation.
Yes.
Yeah. Alex Rodriguez was pummeled.
So I just got a hand job in the bathroom. But I didn't want to be seen on like the optics
From Dawson?
of lunch.
Not again.
Alex Rodriguez.
I hope he at least used cottage cheese again. That's his
damn.
favorite cheese.
Ricotta.
Ricotta.
cheese.
Come on. Sorry. All right.
Where are my Chargers at?
I really want to get to this clip, and
All
I'm
right,
gonna
go. We're gonna play
do
it.
this for Dawson. Alex Rodriguez pummeled with verbal assaults Monday as people heckled him throughout his coverage of the American League Championship Series. Boston fans were relentless, trying to get A-Rod to react. They chanted J-Lo. They're screaming things about she left him for Ben Affleck. Here are two clips from the event. The first one is the J-Lo chant.
Boston fans are the greatest.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Goes on for a while.
Yeah, he's up there.
Then we got this guy next.
Is this quite the burn they think it is? Like, yeah, I banged one of the hottest girls in the world
Yeah.
for many years.
But you're not banging her now. So here's the next one. Listen to the whole thing.
I think the implication is she was
left.
sneaking around
Right.
and kind of dumped him and took off.
I think this next
But
guy
yes.
will agree. He gives it 2 tries, so listen to both of them.
Hey, A-Rod! What's your favorite Ben Affleck movie? A-Rod! Ben Affleck's got J-Lo! How do you like them apples?
It's not his quote.
Well, between this and the Let's Go Brandon chant, which is making the rounds, have you guys heard that one?
No.
There's a hashtag, Let's Go Brandon.
I know.
How do you know?
I see Ruben and Shapiro tweeting it all the time, so
Because
it must be something shitty.
They're yelling "fuck Joe Biden" at every NASCAR event and stuff, and then there was a person that was
A racer named Brandon won at Talladega.
right, and so they were shouting "fuck Joe Biden," and then the announcer was like, they're saying "Let's go Brandon." Right. So now that's just become the rallying call. But we can no longer do things in front of crowds anymore now.
Remember when Hulk
I
Hogan
believe.
turned evil
Yeah.
for a while?
Hollywood Hogan.
I know this is an old story, but I did just talk about this with Hench a couple of weeks ago. Remember when we were assured by the aforementioned Bill Simmons that he wrote a whole book about it? About like, I can die in peace. I saw my Red Sox. All I ever wanted was to see them win it once. I suffered so much. We Red Sox fans, we suffered so much. I mean, the hard right turn from the 20th century into this millennium of Boston sports fans being like, those poor people, how do they stick with sports after all their suffering, have now trumped what they have now become what they hate most. Assholes.
Yeah.
They're the worst collection of fans on and I'm including Philadelphia, New York City, or wherever else you want to
They're
look. Boston
insufferable.
fans are the worst.
Yeah, they're the worst. And you can be magnanimous. I don't like to talk about myself, but permit me.
Please.
I had this observation in 2000 or 2001 when we were in New Orleans watching the Patriots beat my Rams. And I think it's all you need to know. After the game, you're in New Orleans, time to go out and, down a few and have a good time and party. I felt the Patriots. I always liked the Patriots. I liked their uniforms. I
Yep.
like Steve Grogan. I liked them. They had some good guys. There was kind of snake bit.
Andre Tippett was cool.
Andre Tippett.
Knew Taekwondo. They would say that every game.
Yeah.
He's a black belt. Third
Oh,
degree
right.
black belt.
They'd
They
always weave that in. Russ Francis.
Stanley Morgan.
Russ Francis was like the brawny man put on a football helmet. It's like he was literally a lumberjack.
I've commented more than once that Adam Carolla, there's one incarnation of the brawny man that looks very much like you.
Thank you, David. I appreciate your input. So, here's all you need to know about the fans. I's a Rams fan. The Rams won the Super Bowl the year before. Patriots I'd always liked. Everyone kind of
Great
has.
show on turf for dominant team.
Yeah, there's always the second. There's your team, and then there's the other team you're kind of rooting for. And I was kind of rooted for the Patriots. They were destroyed in the Super Bowl by the Bears. It was an embarrassing blowout. So when they beat the Rams, I was kind of philosophical about it. If anyone's going to beat them, so be it. Let the Patriots. And then I had the observation after that night out in Bourbon Street partying. I said, everyone else goes out and celebrates their Super Bowl win. The Patriots fans are looking for Rams fans to rub it in their faces.
That is
And
so
that was the
true.
observation from 20 years ago. I said, there's a great distinction between the fans that are out celebrating, like, Phoenix Cardinals. They win the Super Bowl. They're going to go out and celebrate. They're not going to look for the vanquished
Right.
and rub it in their face, right?
Right.
Which actually makes your celebration sort of miserable because now you're just yelling at the people who were vanquished. But I had that 20 years ago. I was like, you got to keep your eye on these people because it's not that they want to celebrate. They want to celebrate your loss. And that's a different mindset.
On one hand, it's absolutely right, and I say this all the time as somebody who people perceive to hate their team, including Steelers fans will tweet me periodically to let me know, why do you hate the Steelers? Well, long time. It's died in the wool for me. No, every fan base will hit me up to tell me I'm a hater and everything else. And when you, right after a win, if your first instinct is to drop Dave Damashek a line, to ha, and you hate us because you ain't us, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to have some joy in the experience, not the instinct that you want to stick it to some stranger. What's wrong with you?
Let's take it to another sport. Let's just say it was a marathon. And the Kenyan wins the Boston Marathon. You think he turns around and starts running for the people who have a stitch in their side, who's cramping up, like the guy in the back, running for veterans. Isn't that cute? I finished 4.5 hours ago, dude. You think that exists? The answer's no. And if it's not true for the Kenyans, then it shouldn't be true for the Bostonians.
The big story, one of the big stories of pro football this year is, of course, the taunting rule, which is insane because the referees they perfected officiating the rest of the game so thoroughly that they can move on to taunting. And Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the Bears, after beating the Bears in Chicago, shouted into the crowd, "I own you! I still own you!" And I thought it was hysterical. So, a couple of people are bent out of shape, but for the most part, people are amused by it. But I'm intrigued. I wrote it down, in fact, because I wanted to make sure I ask you, where do you come down, Ace, on the preponderance of fans fighting at games now? Have you guys talked about this already?
We talk about it every
Okay, all
week.
right. Then no, you don't need to indulge me. I'm sorry. I am fascinated because of how stupid they look. If they would just see video of some people fighting, you'd be like, well, I never want to be that schnook, and so I'm not going to do it. And yet, it happens now at every
It emboldens
game.
them.
It's a bellwether. I think it's I always bring up the example of barbed wire on the freeway signs in LA. When this is happening, it's a societal thing. It's not freeway signs. It's just a bad harbinger for society, and we picture guys when Babe Ruth was playing wearing ties and straw hats, and you would never imagine anyone scrapping. And those, now that it's a regular thing, it's not so much, it's an issue with football. It's an issue with fans. It's just it's a societal issue. It's like people throwing down at the airport or on commercial flights. It's not something to do with commercial airline travel. It's just a overall sign that as a society, we're completely losing our grip and sliding into the abyss, right?
Interesting.
Because that is, all a NFL stadium is or MLB stadium, it's just a little slice of life. You know, it's a here's society, here are the people in our society. We've put them together. We have fans from one side, and the Giants fans and Dodgers fans. We just put them all together in this one place. And it was completely acceptable for the last 122 years until the last 9 months. And now it's Thunderdome, which is, again, like if you're just a sociologist, you're like, this is a bad sign for us as a civilization.
True. It's not even opposing fans sometimes. So
No.
it's the same fan base, and they fight, and
Same
it's a whole bunch of butt crack and and D+ level punches thrown while
Tripping over
also
seats.
the classic move is I'm going to try to punch you while also pulling my head as far back away just in case you got a punch coming my way, and then you look like a jackass. Who wants to indulge with that? Any of that stuff? Yeah, it's a bad look. I hear you. So our grandfathers weren't doing that, in other words.
No
Like,
fisticuffs.
you take back what you said about Lefty Grove. He would lick Ted Williams, and I'll say it twice to you, Bob.
I said good day. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news. I played all my cards.
Keep going.
Shit.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, last but not least, there's Trico. Over a century ago, Trico was the first to make wiper blades. They've been a step ahead of Mother Nature ever since. Trico engineers study specific driving conditions. So even if it's raining cats and dogs, it was raining the other day out here in the Southland. Had my Trico wiper blades, was ready to go, whatever the weather. Trico wipers. Maintain maximum windshield contact, and no matter what your driving habits are. Also good when you just use the spray to clean your windshield. Yes. Maximum contact, as Brian's uncle, the mechanic, would say.
Uncle John, he knew his stuff.
Told you to get the Trico. You'll always find the right wiper blade for your vehicle. Trico, the future of wipers since 1917. To find a store near you and to see the latest offers, visit TricoCatsAndDogs.com. That is TricoCatsAndDogs.com. Let's take it to another sport. Let's just say it was a marathon, and the Kenyan wins the Boston Marathon. You think he turns around and starts running for the people who have a stitch in their side, who's cramping up, like the guy in the back, running for veterans. Isn't that cute?